I'm pretty sure I already wore this sweatshirt this week on air, but we're in quarantine. Does anyone even know what day it is? Grossi Posse Packer Nation. Welcome to an episode of Packast, the podcast where you don't have to be a Packers fan, but it sure does help. I'm your host, Tom Grossi. Yep, we're going wide receiver again. I originally was looking at somebody else today, but I was like, you know what? I've been getting a lot of requests about T. Higgins from Clemson, and I decided today to just dive in, and I'm glad I did, because for me, with my understanding of the Green Bay Packers, which, take that with a grain of salt, obviously, I think that T. Higgins is exactly the kind of wide receiver that they're going to target. If they are going to go wide receiver in the first round, which I'm still not convinced they're going to, I still think the Packers are going to wind up trading back, or they would go a different position. I think T. Higgins has a really, really good shot at being the next Green Bay Packer here. And if you want to just look just at all the tangibles, and if you want to just look at all the intangibles here, this is why. The guy is incredibly lanky. He's 6'4", 216 pounds. He has the second longest arm span at the combine of wide receivers with 34 and an 1/8-inch arms. And if you're like, wait a minute, Tom, like, who cares? What does that mean? Just to give you an idea of the kind of wide receivers that Goody likes, let me just take you down this road real quick. You remember a couple years back where the Green Bay Packers drafted like every single wide receiver? Jamon Moore, 6'3", MVS, 6'4", EQ, 6'5", even Kumaro, who they brought in, 6'4", and even Funches, who they just brought in, 6'4". Yeah, Goody's got a type, and T. Higgins fits that type to a T. Now, again, they also might go after a guy like Mims, right, who we talked about, in which he's 6'3" as well, if we're just basing this purely off of the kind of receivers that the Packers like to target. That's why I said Jalen Reagor would be kind of like an off pick for them, but that kind of fits in with the whole like Randall Cobb aspect, and even Justin Jefferson is a little bit on the shorter side at 6'1", but if we were going for a slot receiver. But T. Higgins out of Clemson, I was looking at I watched a bunch of his tape, and I really liked what I saw. There's obviously some limitations as why he's going to be most likely picked at the end of the first round or in day 2. But let's break him down. Looking purely at stats for right this second. So he played as a backup in 2017, only had 17 receptions, 345 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Nothing really to write home about. But in 2018 is when he started to come on his own, played 15 games, 59 receptions, 936 yards, and 12 touchdowns. And then in 2019, 15 games again, 59 receptions once again, 1,167 yards, and 13 touchdowns. He tied for the most receiving touchdowns in Clemson history, tied with DeAndre Hopkins and Sammy Watkins. So pretty good company to have. Now, to give you some other mind-blowing stats, he scored a touchdown on 20% of his catches. So this isn't like a Justin Jefferson who is catching every single, like, is constantly getting targeted over and over and over again. But obviously, every single time that T. Higgins is getting the ball, usually it's ending in a good amount of success. Now, on top of that, he ran a 4.54 in his 40, which is not really that great. In his tape, he does play a little bit slow, but he does have some decent speed. But to give you an idea of some of the other statistics around him, he forced 12 missed tackles in 2019, only had an 8.6% drop rate, which was pretty damn good. And from passes thrown at least 20 yards, he caught 15 of 23 of those and scored 6 touchdowns. So just from the stats alone, if you were looking at that, you're like, okay, this is pretty damn impressive. And when I was watching him on tape, there is a lot of things I liked about T. Higgins. So, for example, one, he's versatile. He can play from the slot. He can play on the outside. I'm all about it. We're good with that. I love a versatile wide receiver. Now, on top of that, what I saw is similar to what I liked with Denzel Mims, is that this guy, just because he's so damn lanky, the contested balls, he's most likely going to come down with. It's kind of just like an ultimate cheat code. So for Trevor Lawrence, it's literally just like, I saw so many times where he just like rolls out and it's just like, all right, here you go, T. You can go and catch that ball. And most of the time he does. Now, again, he's abusing these defenders in college, not necessarily going to translate well over to the NFL, but there's just some things you can't teach, just like his length and his height. So that's one of those things. I saw him do pretty damn well, and even in double coverage, and anytime there was a jump ball, he was pretty successful with it. Now, having Trevor Lawrence as your QB obviously is a big plus, as Trevor Lawrence is going to be like the first pick out of the draft in the near future. But here's what I wasn't the biggest fan of when I was looking at T. Higgins. So one, again, similar to what we were talking about Mims, he definitely could use some help in route running, but if you get him paired with a guy like Davante Adams, I think that could be absolutely beautiful. He doesn't really have that speed like we talked about before, and so because of that, a lot of those balls do have to be contested because he has corners draped all over him or defenders draped all over him. And I think that if you start talking about some of the NFL corners and some of the NFL safeties, it's going to be a little bit more difficult for him to make those contested catches. He doesn't have a huge yak, doesn't have a lot of yards after the catch, because again, sometimes he's able to like have a breakaway, and he does have some pretty good feet, but He's not a Jalen Reagor, for example, or a Justin Jefferson, who like you could just dump it off to him and he's gonna make like miraculous plays. But I think what I like about him is that he provides a weapon that the Packers have been looking for quite some time. Obviously, you can see in the draft that I just mentioned before, we were looking for a deep threat. We were looking for a big-bodied receiver who could just go up and get the ball. That's why I like Denzel Mims so much, because he just seems to catch everything that's thrown at him. That being said, even when we went out and got Jimmy Graham, everybody was talking about like, oh man, what a great red zone target he's going to be. T. Higgins is that guy. Obviously doesn't play tight end, but he is that huge red zone target. So like if you had Davante Adams, who obviously is amazing with his release and is just able to get open all over the field, and you bring in a guy like T. Higgins, he's going to provide a big time threat, not only in the red zone, but you could also, think about Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball to him. It's going to be phenomenal. So I would not mind picking up T. Higgins. If I had to choose between Higgins and Mims, personally, I think I'm going to go with Mims just because I liked his tape a little bit more. But I think that, understanding the Packers as much as I do and kind of the type that they go for, especially what Goody is going for, I think that he's definitely going to be pretty high up on their board. And so I wouldn't be terribly surprised if he gets picked at 30 or gets picked early in day 2. He also has a great story too. I was reading about his story, how his aunt bribed him to play football when he was younger by offering him Hot Wheels. He was like, hey, if you went to go play this game, like you'll get Hot Wheels, and for every touchdown you get more Hot Wheels. That's phenomenal. And if he gets drafted by the Green Bay Packers, you're damn right I'm going to be calling him Hot Wheels, because Hot Wheels lead the way. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. Would you be happy to pick up T. Higgins, or would you rather get somebody else? Let me know. You can always find me at TomGrossiComedy.com or at TomGrossiComedy on all social media. See down below. Check out Packast on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play Music, Spotify, and of course YouTube. And a big shout out, thank you to all the Patreon members who are at patreon.com/TomGrossiComedy. But thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi. And as always, go Pack Go.